Good morning, everybody. I want to welcome you all to our cybersecurity webinar. We seem to be doing these webinars about once a month these days, so please do check out all the topics which are coming up in future. But today we're concentrating on cybersecurity. The webinar will be recorded and then put on our YouTube channel. So if you know, it's always there for reference, which is great. So cybersecurity. We all depend on our devices these days, and there are so many threats out there, and they will only increase. We need to be vigilant and do all we can to keep our systems robust and safe. I'm going to admit that technology is not my natural bedfellow, but you know, by default, we all have to be, you know, we depend on our devices, so we all have to be very, very careful. So first speaker is Damian James from Alias Digital, who's going to be talking about basic cybersecurity and website security, I think. Damian, can you can everybody turn their cameras on so we can sort of see people?
Hi folks, nice to see you. Yeah, so we're going to cover off some basics first. We're going to look at some of the things that we notice our clients are doing and give you some very top line stats on things. So I'll just share my slides and then we'll go straight into it. So we're going to talk about some basics around keeping your data safe. And I've got about 10 minutes, so I'm going to whiz through these, but I can share this if you're interested later, this deck. We're going to look at passwords briefly, and then website security and communication and file sharing. So what's the problem? Currently in the UK, there are about 65,000 attempts to hack SME business. That's on a daily basis. 88% customers of companies in the UK have suffered a breach in the last year. 95% of data breaches are a result of human error. And 33% of data breaches studied included social media attacks, which is a growing issue. And only 31% of UK businesses have done a cyber risk assessment in the last 12 months, which is quite surprising. You'll find lots of data and information stats like this from Forbes, Hiscox, NordVPN and the like online. But we don't want you to be one of these stats. What's the biggest issue we see? I think probably from a personal perspective and also in your businesses, 73% of people are using the same passwords on various platforms and services, which leaves you exposed to a data breach. If your password gets hacked on another website or from another business that stores your data, then there's a very good chance that they could use that data to hack into other things that you use. So that's a little bit of a worrying stat. So what can we do? Don't reuse the same passwords. Try and create a unique, complex password with capitals, lowercase, special characters. Use phrases instead of single words to really make them more complicated, and unusual phrases. And then try and save your passwords securely. So we would recommend using a password manager to store, create and share passwords. So things like 1Password or LastPass are very good. There are other services as well. You can get them on your mobiles, get them on your laptops. Make sure that all your teams and all your colleagues are using them as well. Try and change your passwords regularly. This is something I think businesses like Microsoft force you to do on a regular basis, which is good. And never share your own passwords. Always create a new password for new users or people that you want to log into something that you need help with. Don't share your password. Try and create a new one for them. And absolutely never share passwords over email. We'll get onto that in a moment. Website security. So what can you do to make your website secure so that the data you're sharing and your visitors' data is kept safe? Well, you need SSL in place, and hopefully you've all got that. But this is what happens when your SSL certificate, which creates the little padlock in the browser to keep your website safe. If that isn't kept up to date or is missing, this is what you'll see. And it's not a great look if somebody comes to look at your business and sees that your website isn't secure. And this will happen in Chrome. in Safari and in other browsers like Firefox. So yeah, try and make sure your SSL, your secure sockets layer certificate, is kept up to date and installed correctly, and that you have SSL applied to all of the files in your site as well. Because if one of those files has got a HTTP link pointing to that file like an image, then the browsers will think your site is not safe. Always check your website and software and your plugins are always up to date. One of the biggest content management systems and platforms that websites are built on is WordPress. And WordPress is a target for a lot of hackers and people trying to infiltrate your data. WordPress is very good in terms of security, but it's the plugins, the third-party plugins that people install. If they don't keep them up to date, then they become vulnerable. So always keep those up to date. Regularly check your website just to see if there's anything unexpected, looks unusual or odd, or something you've not changed. And make sure that all the third-party services and APIs like widgets you use, whether it's Stripe for payments, you know, you need to be using secure services, secure API services. Stripe's very good. It's PCI compliant. Always check if you're using anything, particularly for financial transactions, that's got PCI DSS compliance. And always secure your website login. You know, you can do various things to keep that safe. So let's talk about logins. If your website has a login, if you've got a content management system, or you've got a platform like Shopify, for instance, they tend to have very good security. If you're using a content management system like Drupal or WordPress or Umbraco, then to manage your site and to manage the content, then always make sure you use a unique username and password. It's quite surprising how many clients we see are using their email as the admin login, and that email is published on the website. So it doesn't take a genius to work out how quickly a hacker could probably cut out half the job and just focus on hacking your passwords. Never share your login. If you have to give somebody else access to your website, always create a separate login. And always install security around your login, in fact, around any forms to your website. We'll talk about forms in a moment. So what you can do is you can block multiple failed attempts. What hackers will do will keep trying and trying and trying. They sometimes have automated bots that will do this for them. And what you can do is block any access or any further attempts. We usually go for 3 or more, which allows your regular users a bit of time to get their password right, which they can sometimes forget. You can use a unique login address. We're starting to do this more now, so that it's not your regular login admin address in the web browser. So if you use a slightly different one, it's much harder for them to guess. And if you can, activate two-factor authentication. So that then requires a code which will come through an authenticator app, or it'll get sent to you via SMS or email. So that's another step that hackers will struggle to replicate. If you've got a big team, a big business, and lots of staff and lots of logins to various tools and software in the business, then you can look at secure single sign-on, which is SSO, which is something that you have one login and then you have access to everything. This just minimizes the number of multiple logins, multiple passwords you have to manage, so it can help keep things a little safer. Web forms. Forms on your website should also be secure. Absolutely. This is probably one of the primary targets for hackers to inject code into your site. So always make sure you're using secure forms and use security plugins on your website. Any data you capture from your customers, your clients, your potential clients and people should also be stored securely. And always follow the GDPR rules for that. And if you want to try and prevent these automated bots or automated attacks on your forms, and it can happen, I think you've probably seen it in the news, where big organizations suffer these denial of service attacks, where millions of websites around the world start hitting their forms, and it brings the site down. So yeah, it's to try and prevent this. Now we put capture on our forms so that it can identify if it looks like suspicious, repetitive, or robotic behavior. So a capture layer like Google reCAPTCHA, which is very good, you can have, there are 3 options. You can either tick a box, you can do a challenge, like, you know, pick the cars, pick the traffic lights, whatever in the images, or you can have an invisible, it's like version 3 reCAPTCHA, which is hidden, and it's just basically monitoring to see if there's any unusual robotic sort of behavior, and then it'll just block that or yeah, prevent that spam getting through to you. Email, just quickly skate over this. 94% of email, all malware comes via email, and the majority of that apparently comes from Russia. So yeah, it is a very, very hot target, and the malware and phishing attempts we see on email are getting far more sophisticated now, which is a huge worry. So what can you do? Avoid opening emails that contain compressed file extensions like .zip, .so, .exe, and the like. These are really, really powerful ways for hackers to bypass your security and get malware and viruses basically onto your systems and into your emails. And you might think as a small business, oh, they won't target me, we're just a small business, we're a one-man band, or there's only a few of us in the office. And but actually hackers want to try and infiltrate as many small businesses and individuals as possible, because they then use you as a platform to target the bigger corporations. So it's not yeah, they're just going to piggyback off your systems. Microsoft files can also pose a threat. So .powerpoint, .ppt, .xls, and Word, .docs can also contain code, which isn't great. So yeah, make sure you always use a secure connection with email. Again, the SSL comes in here, so you should always have that switched on, and authentication with a password in your email settings and your account settings. Never share personal or sensitive data via email in a file or in plain text. Never share passwords either. If you just imagine how many servers your email will have to pass through to get to your recipient, it's never worth the risk. So yeah, if an email looks suspicious, always check, because the name might look official, the logo might look official, the email might look, ordinary. And if you receive regular emails from this person, it's going to be very easy to think, well, this doc's okay. But always check the from address behind that name. If it looks at all suspicious or you're not expecting it, then always check. But to be on the safe side, we would recommend sharing any files, absolutely any files, via a cloud file sharing system. And I think one of my peers is going to talk about that soon. Yeah, never open email attachments from people you don't know. So we get on to file sharing. This is by far the safest way to share files, and it also keeps your email server nice and lean and fast, and you don't have to pay lots of extra cash for more storage, because you're bloating your email server with huge files. So there are certain systems like OneDrive, Dropbox, very good, which we use, Google Drive we also use, or box.com. And then you just send a single file, which can be password protected, to your recipient via an SMS or via WhatsApp or via email. And then only that person can access it. And the other benefits of file sharing on the cloud is that you can keep all your attachments in one place, nicely organized. You can see if the recipient has opened the file. You can share it with multiple people from one single file. You can even update it after you've shared it. We've all been there. You shared the file. Oh no, I set the wrong file, or I forgot to add the final slide. But you can go in, you can edit that, and it can still work with the same link. So that's a huge benefit. And as I said, it also saves a lot of space on your email server. And that's it. That's a very quick whiz through the basics. But it is quite frightening how many clients we see will very, very easily share a password over email with us. We always say, don't do it. If you have to, use WhatsApp, because that's got very good data encryption, but ideally use a password. I think that would be my takeout from today. File sharing in the cloud, and use a password generator and a password sharing service. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Damian. Gosh, yeah, oh, it's all a bit scary. And I've made massive notes to speak to Lisa about what are we doing and what are we not doing. And yeah, and I've just got an HSBC password written down on a piece of paper, which I'm going to actually now call Lisa with. I will not be emailing it with her. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Right, next up is Brad Taylor from Blue Summit, who's talking to protecting your business against today's social engineering attacks. Brad, over to you.
Brad, you're on mute.
See, Damian is always there for me. Damian gave us some great information on how to stay safe online and what to watch out for. What I wanted to do is just take a few minutes to talk with you about social engineering attacks. So there's different types of attacks that the hackers will use to get into your systems or into your email and things like that. And right now we're just going to focus specifically on the social engineering ones. So what is a social engineering attack? Those are phishing attacks, and a phishing attack is where they send emails to you and hope that you click on a link or respond to them in some way, and then they get into your system. Pretexting is just where that they try to get some information and about your organization and then use it against you. Baiting is where a hacker will try to bait you with something, say, oh, sign up for this and get £50 gift card for Amazon, or don't forget to sign up for this free webinar, different things like that. And when you do sign up, they get all of your information and they use it against you. Tailgating, which is where they come in behind you and they follow you with your information. So Damian talked about don't use your passwords. If you're on a public Wi-Fi network, such as at the airport or at Starbucks and things like that, hackers can ultimately see all of the things that you're typing on your computer because it's an open Wi-Fi network, and they'll use that and they'll tailgate into you. The executive suite fraud, we call it the CXO fraud. It used to be CEO fraud, but now it's just about any C-level or president. And that's where I've got a couple of examples of that, but that's where they try to pretend to be an executive and try to get you to do things in the organization. And you end up getting in trouble for that. And then what's really coming out recently are the deep fakes. And we've heard a lot about that in media, where you have deep fake pictures and deep fake videos where it looks like it's Boris Johnson riding a horse with Putin. But what they do is those tools are getting so inexpensive now that what they can do is they can emulate your voice and your picture and pretend to be you, and even call in and say, oh, this is Sally in accounting, and I just need your I just need your NHS number. I need your password really quick to make a change on your account. And people tend to do it. So those are the new things that we're starting to see come out. So a couple of good examples, and these are real world examples, and I'm sure that everybody on the panel has their own favorite example, but one of my favorites that came out is we had a client that came to us just after this happened is the HR manager, the person in charge of all of the information for this organization and their employees, got a text message, an SMS message that said, hi, this is Bob, the CEO, and I need a list. I need you to email me a list of every employee, their NHS number, their home address, their postal code, and their salary. And I need you to email it to my Gmail account because I've been locked out of my computer. I'm on the phone with IT and I need this right away. And the HR manager, being the wonderful person that she is, thought, oh my gosh, my CEO is having a really hard time today. I need to get this over to him right away. And she sent the list off. She sent the list of the entire organization, all employees with all of their personal information. And that doesn't seem like it's too bad, right? We just sent off a list, but the total cost for that one email was they had to notify every employee that they had lost the employee's data and that it was now on the dark web. They had to notify all of their clients that this information had gone out because those employees are now, the clients are now being contacted by what they think are the employees, but that they are not. So they lost brand loyalty from a lot of their clients because of that. And they had a total cash cost of having to spend on lawyer fees, compensation to employees because they had to provide protection for employees, and then remediation of this issue was £1.5 million. And this was a 25-person organization. 25 people, £1.5 million. This happened about a year and a half ago, and they're still reeling from the effects of it. So small things like that can add up. And what you think is just a quick and easy thing to do that you're trying to make something happy is you want to make sure that that's the right person that you're reaching out to. So what were the red flags in that? One, does the CEO ever text the HR manager? No. Number two, why would the CEO ever need to have home addresses? Should never have home addresses of the employees, correct? And number three, why would you ever send something that has personal identifiable information to anything that's other than a corporate account? So those are the things that we went through with this employee, and how can we prevent that in the future? Another good example is an CXO fraud. This was actually the CFO. And the accounting manager got an email from what they thought was a client that said, hey, and it included the CFO in it. And it said, hey, CFO and accounting manager, we have new banking information. You need to send all of your direct debits to this new bank account. And so what did they do? The accounting manager, instead of verifying it, made the changes and then started making the payments to this vendor to the new bank account. And it took 4 months for them to realize what they had done. And after 4 months, all of a sudden the vendor called up and said, look, we can't ship you anything else until you come current with all of your invoices, which brought their production facility to a halt. And at the end of the day, they lost 30 days worth of production. They lost the terms with 2 of their vendors, their key vendors, and their total cash cost was just over £2 million. And this again was a 30-person organization, something that they almost didn't recover from, all because of one fraudulent email. So we can see it's very easy to just go onto the web and find anybody's name and what their position is at any organization and then pretend to be them. So when Damian was talking about, make sure to verify who is emailing you, it becomes very important, right? Because I can come and look at any of your websites and I can figure out who the CEO is or the CFO or the accounting director. And then I can pretend to be that person, or I can email them directly and say, hey, I'm one of your vendors and I'm pretending to be them. It's very easy to find that information online these days. So one of the things that we recommend doing is don't always put that information out. Maybe put general information, not pictures, because as you'll see, especially with deep fakes, they can take these pictures and they can take your Instagram feeds and they can start to make it look like they're even you. And and start going after customers and suppliers. So they don't always just hit you, they go out for other ones. So now that I've scared you, I hope I didn't scare everyone too much. What can we do about it, right? Is we need to stay vigilant. So number one is provide employee awareness training. Employees need to be aware of that, including yourself, right? Is I need to know what's going on out there, and I need to know how to take care of it. And there are great services that can do that, including free ones. One of my favorite is Trend Micro Phishing. And what that is it's a free service that Trend Micro offers. You sign up for it, and it will do fake phishing campaigns for you. So it'll send a phishing campaign out to all of your employees, and it'll check to see if they fall for it. And if they fall for it, it forces them to watch a video about it and what they can do to prevent it, so that they can get real-time feedback on it. Having regular training sessions. What we implement with all of our clients is a regular training session on the different phishing campaigns and send out examples. And we have a dedicated email address for them to go and send what they think is a phishing scam out so that it can be notified to the entire company. Because if you get the phishing scam, somebody else is going to get it as well. And if everybody in the company is looking for it, then they're more likely to find it. It's also important to create robust internal controls. And what does that mean? It means communication, right? When we go back to the HR manager and the CEO, would that have ever occurred if the HR manager had just taken 30 seconds and said, hey, is the CEO in the office today? Because you know what? He was. He wasn't off on an offsite meeting. He was 2 doors down. It could have taken, those internal controls are number one. Communication is if somebody makes a request, you contact that person and verify the request. And then on certain requests, especially when it's direct debit changes or payment changes or terms changes, is that must be done in writing on company letterhead, right? And then once that occurs, then you can make those changes, because you don't want to be able to do it on a whim. We had another employee at an organization. This was about 250 employees, and where the robust internal controls worked is it was an accounting manager, and she received a notification that the CFO needed this report. The report had confidential information on it, and she was ready to send the report, but it said, nope, you have to ask the CFO before you can send it to verify. So she did. She went and asked, and he said, nope, that wasn't me. And it saved them from it. So robust internal controls, starting with communication. There should always be a second person verifying if you're ever going to send out personal identifiable information. And personal identifiable information should never be sent over the web. There should be a secure way to share it, and only certain people should have it, right? I should never know what Lisa's home address is. There's no reason for me to know. And so if you have internal controls that prevent that, then there's no way for me to make that mistake, correct? So multi-factor authentication, Damian touched on this, is every password should have MFA, and you should use it. I know it is a little more complicated, but it saves you. We've had so many times where we call in as IT and say, look, we just need to log in with you really quick. And they say, well, here's my password. Can you do it while I'm at lunch? No, I can't do that, right? But we tend to give out our passwords a lot, and our passwords are usually easy to understand. And the attackers are getting much better at figuring out what our passwords are. By using multi-factor authentication, you eliminate that 100%. You can give everybody your password and they still can't get in. We recommend like companies like Duo or LastPass or any MFA service that does it. There's a whole bunch out there that do it. We do not recommend using SMS. And the reason that we don't anymore is there is, in the last 2 years, there's been a 1000% increase in people stealing your phone number. It's very easy to switch your phone number from your SIM to my SIM. All I have to do is call in and again, pretend to be you online and say, hey, I need to change my SIM, and they move it and they immediately have your two-factor authentication and they get in and then you're locked out. So we always recommend using a service like Duo or OnePass or any of those others. Get it set up. It's always on your phone. You can activate it quickly and it can be done. And then you don't have to worry about it. It just pops up on your phone anytime you log in, and then you can always hit reject. So we test that also on an employee awareness training is we'll pretend to log in as them and see if they accept the login request. And so far, that's never happened, thank goodness. So what else do we need to do? Email endpoint protection. So most of your threats are going to come in via email, and doing a quick change to your email by preventing somebody from pretending to be your domain. So my domain is bluesummittech.com. My email does not accept any external email addresses that are from bluesummittech.com. That way nobody can spoof my email. It has to come in as a Gmail or somebody else's address. And that is a quick and easy fix on your email. If you're using Microsoft 365, any of the companies here can help you to make that change. And it will block 99% of the phishing attacks. And it will block 100% of the ones that are hard to catch, because it looks like it came from Brad at bluesummittech.com, but it didn't, because I can fake it. So you make that quick change. Going a step further is implementing something like Mimecast, and Mimecast will actively filter out all of the new threats, and it will prevent links from going into your organization that are not verified. And it also prevents any personal identifiable information from leaving your organization through email. It actively blocks it. It says, oh, here's Sally's home address. You can't send that. There's another way to do that. So things like that to be able to protect. What else can we do? Create an incident response team. And why do I say that? Is because when something does occur, even if it's minor, you want a team of people. You want at least 2 people to discuss it and say, okay, this happened. Maybe it was small this time. Maybe it was I clicked on a link and a window popped up and it said that I was infected with a virus, but IT was able to fix it really quick, or I was able to just reboot my computer. You want to have somebody else that can discuss it from a company level and say, what can we do to prevent this from happening again? Most of these are free and easy to do, quick to implement, but you have to be able to do it. Creating the employee awareness and testing and training them. Internal controls, starting with communication. Always use multi-factor authentication. It's easier today than it was 5 years ago. Email endpoint protection. Make sure your firewalls are up to date and block certain emails from going in and out. Create an incident response team. Create a group of people that can talk about the issue so that it's more than one person's perspective on how to prevent it in the future. Because if it happened once, I can guarantee it will happen again. As soon as the hackers find you, they will come back, right? So quick and easy ways to take care of that. In summary, I hope I didn't scare you all into never using your computers again. But there are new threats that are coming out every day. And we as businesses must always be aware of that, because it's not just a monetary loss or not just a loss of productivity. It can be a loss of our reputation. It can be a loss of our, of the business as an organization. It can be loss of some of our major clients. We want to be, an ethical organization out there, that we want to provide what we do for our customers, and we want to be there tomorrow for our employees and our customers. So we say, communicate, train, test, and always use enterprise level systems for your business. Never go to Curry's and buy a firewall for your business. I'm sure you'll hear a lot more of that in the next presentation, but never use the basic stuff. Always get an enterprise level. It might be 50 pounds more or 100 pounds more, but I guarantee that it will save you at least once in a year. So I'll share this deck with you, the chamber afterwards. And it always, if you have any questions or if you run across any issues, I'm always there to help, and have a shoulder to cry on, to commiserate if anything does happen. But hopefully through what you hear today, you should never have a problem. All right.
Thank you very much indeed. No, thank you, Brad. God, I'm terrified. I need a cup of coffee. Next speaker is Reena from Timeless. Timeless is a patron of the chamber and very supportive of what we do. And Reena is going to be talking about the importance of backing up data. Reena, please.
Sorry, I will be with you in 2 ticks.
No worries.
Having a few technical issues. Can you believe it?
It worked last time.
I know. Hang on 2 seconds. Apologies.
No worries.
Right, nearly there.
It is all a bit of a terrifying topic, isn't it? I remember, yes, one of our interns got a text message purporting to be from our chairman, asking for some money to be transferred over to buy Amazon vouchers. The whole thing was a bit, and we were running an event and she received this text message and I was just getting cross with the chairman thinking, what's all this? We're running an event. I can't be faffing about with Amazon vouchers, and then realized this was just a total fraud. So I'm pleased she got me involved. But yes.
Just wanted to double check that you can all see the slide.
I can't see it at the moment.
Oh.
Lisa, are you able to give some advice?
Sorry, I'm 2 seconds away.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh, there you go. It's opening
excellent.
up now.
Well done. Thank you.
Technicalities yet again. So is that all okay?
Yes, it is. Lovely.
Fabulous. So I know quite a few of you, but I'm Reena Kessack from Timeless. And as Sally mentioned, we're patrons of the chamber. So this is a real delight to talk about something that all of us on the panel are really, really passionate about when it comes to security and why cybersecurity is so important. And at the core of the whole business, of everyone's business, is your data. So by putting cybersecurity measures in place, you're protecting the core of your business, which is your data, which both Damian and Brad have touched upon. So just a quick brief thing about cybersecurity is obviously the guys have spoken about it before. Technology is used by all of us. We're accessing it to get to our network, keep in contact. We're doing it from anywhere and everywhere. And as Brad mentioned, on occasions we're using public Wi-Fi. So again, we've got people working all over the place and they can access this data from anywhere. So the whole point of cybersecurity is making sure that that data that we hold in our business is protected against any fraudulent behavior or theft. Your network and your data is key to your business. There's no doubt about it. If, for example, your data was hacked or leaked, it's again your reputational it's the reputational damage that you could face, and it's that loss of trust again, as both guys mentioned. So just before I go a little bit further and frighten you guys even more, I want you all to think about the sort of data that you hold. It's not just a few files. This is absolutely everything, that data that says about you as a company. You're holding your employees' details, their addresses, their bank account details. You're holding this data for your clients as well in many cases, your suppliers. The data that you hold is so important. And again, I can't stress anymore, it's the key to your business. should your business be hacked and you can't access your data, that's your business at a standstill. Now, obviously, many of us can remember floppy disks and having paper copies of everything. That was our sort of backup. And obviously, if you think years ago when we just had paper copies, obviously you would protect those paper copies. Floppy disks, you'd put them in a fireproof box. Well, your data now, as much as we're backing it up onto the cloud, it's got to be protected at all costs. So a big, I suppose, question for all of you to think about is, what happens if your data did get lost? What happens if you couldn't access it? So a majority of us have CRMs where we've got all our company details, we've got our clients' details, all the jobs that are recorded on there, all our tasks. If we couldn't access that, nobody could do anything, because the truth of it is, unless it's backed up and we can access it securely, there's nothing we can do. That's the entire company at a standstill. And again, that comes down to your reputational damage, and productivity levels will go straight down. Brad talked about or was it Damian? One of them talked about website security. Again, you know, you could be an e-commerce business. You're solely reliant on your website bringing you business in. Again, if that was hacked or the data was leaked, again, you just couldn't run your business. So we talk about backing up. My view is always going to be whatever you think is of value, back it up. As a mum, on a personal level, you know, I've got pictures of my children, this, that, and the other. If I was ever to lose those photos, all those memories, I would be absolutely devastated. I would hate to see these details leaked out onto the dark web or on whatever websites, this, that, and the other. But from a business owner's point of view, it's a lot more, you know, catastrophic. That's, again, it's your business could stop, that's your reputation. So protecting it is the key to all of that. Keep a separate copy of absolutely everything. We're all turning more to the cloud. Again, just make sure that you're asking your IT department or whoever's in charge, is this securely backed up? Is there, you know, is there any risk to my data being infiltrated or stolen or whatever it is? So keeping your data safe is, you know, Brad mentioned again about MFA, things like that. Cyber attacks are most certainly on the increase. You know, having those extra layers of security, protecting your network and your data is key to all of this. Don't take it for granted. You think, oh, I've got a password, it's all fine, you know, or I'm accessing the network and my files from home. Having those extra layers of security like MFA, all these things really, really do help. Backing up to the cloud, especially shared files, you know, it, again, you know, just having everything on your own personal device, there could be hardware failure tomorrow. There could be someone's stolen your laptop or it's damaged or whatever. By having everything in a shared folder, which is secure and on your company's network, again, just keeps that data far more safe than having it on your own personal device. And obviously human error. How many times have we been frustrated where we've worked on a document for, say, a few hours, you haven't saved it, or you haven't saved it for, I don't know, an hour or so, and you've lost it. That's all that hard work. Again, just keep backing it up. Our rule certainly is, you know, use shared files. Other people can access them. It's all about version control, but again, it's on the secured platform. So do take your data as priority when it comes to your business. Oops. Oh. So we all bury our heads in the sand. There's no doubt about it. I certainly do about a lot of things. You know, it's been mentioned about passwords, using the same password. Truth of it is, it can happen to anybody. these hackers, they're not just going for the big corporates, then they're going for anybody and everybody, because you might be a small business with 20 clients. If those hackers can infiltrate you and get to your clients, well, then it just spans out, doesn't it? So again, keep your data backed up. The cloud is the most secure way of doing it. If you're unsure, then obviously do speak to your IT department and any other experts that you know within the field. Things like 365 aren't automatically backed up. Again, there are other ways of backing these things up. So again, just communicate to your provider, communicate to your team, and make sure that your data is safe at all costs. So in summary, don't take it for granted. It's no different to cybersecurity. You might think it's not going to happen to you. Well, it could do. Think about the impact of not having cybersecurity, not backing up your data, because the truth of it is it could happen to you. I've put that last paragraph down again. It's whatever's valuable to your business, back it up. You know, on a personal level, I sit here, we insure ourselves, we do this, we insure our houses, but if you're leaving the windows open and the doors open, that's when the attacks can happen. There's no point in having that insurance. So don't take it for granted. Put your layers of security in and make sure that that data is fully backed up at all times and that you can access it safely. So that was very brief, just to say, but again, thank you for your time. And if you've got any questions, please ask later.
Thank you very much indeed, Reena. Yes, I'm now going to sort of speak to Lisa. I know we've got stuff backed up, but I want to know how easy it is to access it should, you know, the sky fall in. Right, our last speaker is Tara McLaughlin from AJAR Technologies, and you're going to be talking about how physical security hits cyber. So over to you, please, Tara.
Thanks, Sally. I'll just share my screen. And thank you for inviting me to take part. I think the fact that there's been so much interest in this sort of definitely shows that there's a priority for us all. And we're sort of in a world where we're becoming more and more dependent on technology. So cybersecurity is, whether we want to or not, it's something we've got to be interested in. I'm here to talk specifically about the direct and necessary link between physical and cybersecurity. But before I jump into that, I just want to share a little bit of information about us for those who we've not met before. Hopefully you can see my slides there. Let me just, there we go. So we're a West London business, and we're an independent systems integrator, and we work with our clients to on their whole solution journey. So that's at the advisory, design, configuration, installation and maintenance. And as you'd expect, cyber touches all areas of that. So when we're advising a client, we're looking at what are the cyber implications of an audiovisual or a security system that they're installing. Once it's installed, how do they manage that aligning with their cyber policies and procedures? And as we're maintaining it, how do we make sure that any changes to cyber policies for an organisation remain a priority and align? So, and just a bit of a view for those of us who don't know us, these are some of the clients that we work with. Typically large enterprise organisations. Although we're an SME ourselves, we're very proud to be able to support these companies. And as I say, you would imagine some of their cyber policies are very tight and stringent, and making sure that any system we install aligns with that is key. So what is the connection? Well, whilst we know that safeguarding of internet-enabled devices and services from malicious attacks is a top priority for all organisations, and that's a lot of what we've heard today, we often see that the physical aspect of the security is discussed much less or considered as a totally separate entity. So by operating your physical and security in silos, are you potentially putting your organisation at risk? And so if that's scaring people with more fear, but you know, if you do separate them, how does that put at risk to you. So what is the connection? Well, in its most basic terms, cybersecurity tools such as the servers, systems and other devices are protected by a physical device. And physical security devices such as access control door readers, security systems, visitor management systems are all connected to the internet and therefore become part of your cybersecurity. And we find that cybersecurity typically will have a much more strategic role within an organization. And typically that's reporting to a board level, whereas a physical security role typically comes under managerial roles in estates, assets or facilities teams. So physical security is being seen as protecting tangible assets and people from actual incidents. However, the physical solutions do play a key role in protecting the data by limiting access to spaces where information is stored. So as I say, CCTV cameras and access control readers are two examples of physical security hardware, which if they're not properly connected and protected, can be accessed by hackers to enter networks. So to prevent risks and mitigate threats, it's important to harden systems and equipment with firewalls, strong passwords, and effective policies and procedures. And Damian was talking a lot about passwords, and typically we think of that as your desktop systems, but actually your physical security requires passwords too. So you would be applying the same rules that Damian talked about there to your actual security devices, and often it is seen as a separate piece of work. And many organizations who have the ISO's 22301 or 27001 standards will know that physical and environmental security are vital in achieving compliance, because areas such as your infrastructure security and cable and asset management have set standards within those regulations. But again, they're treated by different departments more typically. So the cyber team will be looking at particular areas of the regulation, and someone else will look at cable management, and they don't often align. So this does sort of naturally indicate to us that there should be a more holistic approach to cyber and physical. Now that is starting to happen, and we are seeing a change in the approach, particularly with more migrations to cloud-based solutions. So as Reena alluded to earlier, there's a lot of, we personally use a lot of cloud systems through our phones and backing up photos and bank apps, but also in businesses, we're seeing more movement to cloud-based solutions. And also more recently, physical security receives more publicity and interest around its capabilities and uses. And usually that's, if something goes wrong, they will check a camera. So that's why it drives a bit more traction that way. But what is changing the actual view on how it's being approached? Well, I think there are three key ones at the moment that are quite high profile. The first one being Martin's Law, which was launched in December 2022. And this legislation focuses on increased protection against terrorism in public places, and came as a result of the Manchester Arena attack in 2017. I think it could be said that this reflection of connecting the intelligence of cyber and physical security to public-facing organisations is a step change, because again, we will typically hear security services or police forces talking about CCTV and physical security and using something to track evidence. But now the Martin's Law is encouraging the use of using intelligence and cyber information to work alongside your physical evidence and security systems. Similarly, the creation of the National Protective Security Authority, which was formerly known as the CPNI, that shows a new view of connected security approaches. So this authority are tasked with working in partnership with the National Cybersecurity Centre and the UK National Authority of Counter Eavesdropping, and that's to build resilience and a stronger UK combined approach to threats. So again, we often hear that if the special forces intervene on a terrorist attack in the UK, that's usually been found through cyber channels, whereas now there is a lot more collaboration through Martin's Law and the new authority working together to assess threats and make the total security, not physical or cyber, of the UK much more resilient. And finally, more recently, you may have seen reports, there's a lot of this in the news at the moment, that the UK government are making steps to remove the use of Chinese surveillance cameras from sensitive sites. And again, I think this shows a direct and very obvious link between cyber and physical security concerns, which typically would not have been brought to public attention in the same way before. So this can be all quite overwhelming, and we've had a lot of sort of scary things heard this morning, and particularly for small to medium organisations. But as everybody has mentioned, the size of your organisation, it doesn't matter, because all organisations are holding data, are holding information, and they are at risk. So, but there are some simple steps that can be taken to bring your cyber and physical security strategies in line. And I think it's something that we really need to encourage. And the easiest way we see of doing that with clients that we talk to, regardless of what their project type is encouraging collaboration between key people and departments. So as mentioned before, we see physical security being led by departments who have very little engagement with the IT or InfoSec teams. But if we're encouraging collaboration on approach and priorities, this can improve the overall resilience. So are they being involved in conversations about joint projects? Are they being involved about conversations about trends or threats? And I don't know about you, but there's not many of us who enjoy reading the latest rules and regulations. However, guidance can help to drive internal engagement and buy-in from your teams. So if they don't know about the latest legislation or even the latest security trends, then they won't be focusing on them as a priority. So look at ways to keep yourself and your teams informed. And this is a lot in line with what Brad was talking about earlier. That training, just giving people information, is really important, and that can be done in quite easy ways. So there's lots of useful websites and groups that can support that in easy to manage and understandable formats, because the last thing you want to do is bombard people with information that's not relevant, but bite-sized chunks that are relevant to the total organisation or to a key role are really important. And this is something we're doing quite a lot. The next one, it's sort of carry out a review of your physical security processes. So typically a physical security system will be installed and maintained for many years with very little change to it. So does it align with the latest cyber policies and internal processes in your business today? Because when it was set up, what you were operating on then may be very different to what you're doing today. And often this worries people, because they think a review means we're going to spend loads of money and rip and replace lots of hardware to make it more compliant. And however, that's not really the case. So in the example of the concerns over Chinese surveillance cameras, we're working closely with a number of clients to review their existing estate and using things like cloud-based solutions to prevent the need to have to spend a big capital budget that they don't have on removing these cameras of concern, and installing a cloud-based solution that essentially acts as an extra firewall. So it's giving you an extra layer of security. It's enabling you to block off any attempted hacks, because things are coming into the camera but they're stopped at the cloud before they come back into your network. And this is meaning that they don't have to replace tens, hundreds or thousands of cameras across an estate. So this is a service that we offer, and I'm very happy to follow up with people. But we see that the fear that people get is if there's something wrong in my business, I have to spend lots of money. And actually that's not the case. It's very much about educating yourself and looking at what you have got in place and just how to bring that up to date without having to completely change the wheel. And finally, talk to each other and keep learning. Again, Brad, this is something Brad was talking about earlier, because if we don't know what's happening in our organizations, then we don't know what we can do to make any positive change. Equally, if we don't know what's going on in our organizations, we don't know that the CEO's down the corridor, and we could have just knocked on the door. And keep learning and enjoying events like this, because it will be just one little piece from anyone's presentation that will trigger a thought in somebody's mind about particular priorities or challenges that they're having in their business, or something that actually they haven't thought of at all. So definitely the communication piece is really important when it comes to cybersecurity. So that really was a complete whistle-stop tour, but I'm hoping that it's got people thinking about how to align cyber and physical security strategies, because, as I say, this is really key, and for many years has been treated as two different things. But I think if we can take anything from the steps that the government and authorities are taking about trying to use the information from both sides collectively to improve security across the country and for organisations, then that's definitely a positive. My contact details are here, and I'd be really happy to engage with anybody after the webinar to continue the discussion. And if we're able to assist in reviewing your existing estate and processes from a physical security side, we're very happy to do so. So thank you for listening, and hope everybody isn't too stressed out from a lot of cyber talk.
Thank you so much, everybody. I see that we're running over time a bit, and I do like these webinars to stick to time, but just yeah, as I say, it's a terrifying subject, and I think it's been covered really well. And I loved your comment, Tara, that yes, if you just go away with one nugget which makes you think and do something, you know, we as the chamber have done our job. There were a few questions that came from our panel, from our audience, but I think most of them have been covered. Somebody mentioned the National Protective Security Authority, and Tara, you mentioned that as well. I had a quick Google because I hadn't heard of this. I had a quick Google before the webinar started, and it is quite a good website. So do check it out, the NPSA. Then somebody was saying, why are SMEs often reluctant to engage and act upon the threats of cybersecurity? Well, I think that's been covered. I think basically we're all quite busy, and we think it's not going to happen to us, but I think it is. So we've got to pull our fingers out and just take this seriously. It's not going to go away, it's only going to get worse. And then the last question was, how can I make websites more secure? Well, I think, Damian, you covered that brilliantly. I will put you in touch with the person who asked the question, so you can maybe go into that in more detail, sort of via email. But I do just want to thank you all again for your time this morning. It will be recorded on our YouTube channel. Have a good day. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.